This is Bottom Feeder Cinema. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to talk about the movie Wicker Man from 2006, which stars Nic Cage. In this movie, Nic Cage is an officer.
A motorcycle cop.
A motorcycle cop in California.
Yes, California.
Who gets a mysterious letter in the mail from his estranged ex-fiancé.
Fiancé, yeah.
Which is written in gorgeous calligraphy.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
On hand-pressed paper in an envelope sealed with like a red wax emblem. She sent it to him from the year 1800 or something.
No stamp or anything, just the logo from wherever she's at.
And this letter says that her child, at this point she just says her child, right? She doesn't express that it's his child. Her child from, I guess, after they split up, is missing.
Yeah, she's gone missing.
She lives on this obscure island off the coast of Washington, and she wants him to come there to help investigate and find the child. And he basically up and goes there.
Yeah, he just decides that.
I mean,
well,
I'm trying to think if there was any reason.
Yeah, first what happens is he gets this letter, and it kind of weirds him out. No, he doesn't even get the letter first. That accident with the car happens.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, and did they ever tie in that whole thing with him looking at the like Life is Good, like motivational book?
They talk about it later, like he has the tapes with him, but I don't know what the whole. Yeah, they kind of focus on that at the beginning, and then never.
It
went
opens
anywhere.
with him with his partner, which we also never see again. It was a guy, right? We never saw another male cop.
No, we did. He talks to him before he leaves for the island.
Well, anyways, it starts with them in like a shop or a diner or something.
It's a diner,
and he's looking at this little kiosk with these like motivational books on tape or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So it goes through like a day of his routine, and he's pulling people over, and he's putting stickers on abandoned vehicles on the side of the road, like mundane cop shit.
Yeah, typical motorcycle police stuff.
Then he pulls over this. Well, actually, no, he doesn't. Well, he doesn't initially pull him over. Yeah. He's driving behind this car, and the little kid throws a doll out the window. So he
does some like stuntman swoop and grab.
He deftly
of the doll.
like leans down from his motorcycle without stopping. He's going like 70 and like grabs the doll from the ground,
scoops it up from the ground,
then pulls the car over. And the lady is super apologetic about the kid throwing shit out the window. And he gives the kid's a real shit stick.
Yeah,
really, really awful child. She's just got this bitchy look on her face, and she's like, I threw the doll out the window.
on purpose.
And
because she's bored.
She's like, because I was bored.
Yeah.
Like, what kid says that?
Exactly.
And so he gives her the doll back, and as he turns around and is getting ready to leave, she just throws it at him.
Well, I like when he gives her the doll back, he has a really robotic line where he says, we need to be careful with our things now. And like, he's just, his whole performance is robotic, and how he performs his lines and delivers them.
It's like Nic Cage looked up the cliche of how he acts and sounds to people, like all the parodies of himself.
Like Andy Samberg's parody of him.
And then emulated a parody of himself for this movie. It's like he's a caricature of Nic Cage.
God damn it!
He talks, everything is in the Nic Cage voice, and half of his lines are mumbled.
Yeah, you can't understand what he's saying.
It drives me nuts. Right off the bat, like straight from the very beginning of this movie, except to the lady with the little kid, Nic Cage is a complete prick. Like through and through, everything he says to everybody is really sarcastic.
Yes.
And he's just got this like really weird chip on his shoulder or something.
Hey.
Yeah, he thinks he's like the macho man, cop, tough guy who can do whatever he wants, and everyone has to listen to him and obey his orders.
So I just remembered. So when he gets the letter, he's like reading the letter, and then he gets a phone call in his house, I guess. He's like recovering from seeing...
Yeah, because the car gets smashed by a semi-truck.
Yeah, let me backtrack a little bit. He gets the doll again for the shit girl that throws it out the window, and then their car gets hit by like a semi-truck.
And bursts into flames.
And he's traumatized.
And he smashes the window with his helmet, trying to get her out. She just kind of stares at him. And then the car blows up in his face, and he has no injuries whatsoever.
Yeah. So he's off work for a few weeks, like mentally recovering from seeing this, and he's sitting at home reading the beautiful hand-done letter that he gets from his ex-fiance, and the phone rings. Do you remember this part?
Yeah, and he answers it.
He answers it, and there's no one on the other line, and it just clicks off. And typically, like, if you pick up the phone and there's no one there, you're just like, oh, it's like a fax machine or something, and you hang it up. But when he hears the click of the phone hanging up, he jumps and pulls the phone away from his head, and he's like, oh,
like something stabbed into his eardrum, and like it was a super loud noise, and he wasn't expecting it. It was
the thing about Nic Cage's acting in this movie is, I mean, I guess in any Nic Cage movie, the lows are really low, and he's just completely devoid of emotion, and then the highs are just really intense and overwhelming, and like punchy you in the face with his acting, like, I'm an actor. And it's so bad. So he up and goes to this island.
Well, first he talks to his cop buddies, and they're like, no, you shouldn't go.
Oh yeah, the plot. Okay, so the few times when there's like exposition in this, it's so spoon fed that it's just excruciating. He goes to the other cop guy to show him the letter and ask him like what he thinks he should do. Should I go look for this kid with the ex-wife? And the cop goes, the plot thickens.
The plot thickens.
Like, he's literally telling the viewer, hey, here's going to be an info dump about the plot. Like,
and they kept talking about, he goes, well, shouldn't she be calling this child's father, and blah, 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 and just alluding
and Nic Cage goes through almost the bullet list of reasons why he has to go through the island. He's like, well, they don't have telephones, and she says I'm the only one who can help, so I've got to go. And it's just like,
and I'm a police officer, and I'm sworn to help protect people.
They spoon feed you the premise of the movie. So Nic Cage takes like a ferry to the island.
Yeah. Well, it's not even to that island. It's to another island.
It's ferry to an island from which he will fly to the island.
Because the ex and this girl supposedly live on an island in the Pacific Northwest.
Off of Washington.
Off Washington.
So let's talk about the bus crash or the car crash on the boat. He had through the whole movie has these weird little flashbacks to seeing the girl and the mom with the girl with the doll, and flashing back to them getting hit by the truck as he watches, and every time the flashback is slightly different. Like one time they're not in the car and the truck hits
once
them.
It's just a little girl standing there.
It's really weird. So he's on the boat just sitting there, and isn't he like popping pills or something?
Yeah, well, I think he pops the pills after he sees the premonition. Yeah. He's like putting on aftershave.
Yeah.
Like he's expecting to go on a hot date, even though he's dressed like a college professor, like a jacket with the leather patches on the elbows, and he's wearing slacks and loafers.
So he's sitting in the ferry, and he looks out the window onto like the deck of the ferry, and he sees the back of a little girl that looks like the girl that he saw in the car crash, who also looks like the girl that is missing. That's supposedly his
they all
daughter.
wear the same clothing, like those stupid identical red sweaters.
And he looks, and as he's like waiting to see if she turns around, the truck from the accident that happened drives past and hits the little girl.
Yeah, just runs her
on
over.
The boat. Like he's having a hallucination, and it's hilarious.
Because it's just a giant semi-truck that just hits this little girl on a boat.
And this just truck goes by, and it's in his head or whatever, but it's comical. And so he gets to the island, and then he has to fly from there to the island.
Yeah, he gets to an island that's close by.
And there's this dude with this little
seaplane.
Seaplane, thank you. And he's the sole guy who sends supplies to this island because it's a private island, and they're really reclusive, and he's the only one they trust taking supplies there. And he's loading up his little plane with supplies, and Nic Cage is like, well, take me to the island. And he's doing it in like a really douchey way.
Yeah.
And he's really pushy and rude, and it's like, man, this is the only way you can get there. You should maybe walk a little bit lightly with this guy, but he's just like, take me to the island. And
because the guy's like, no, he goes, these people, it's a private island, I'm not allowed. I'm not the one who can say that you can go. I'm not allowed to take anyone. He's like, well, he pulls the whole "I'm a cop" thing. You have to listen and do what I say.
He won't even listen because he's a cop. And then he pulls out his wallet and he's like, "I'll give you $100." And the guy's like, "Okay."
Well, he says it. Yeah, he says it in like a weird like. I'll give you President Grant and his twin brother Ulysses. And the guy's like, okay, like so for $100, he's just like, whatever.
The guy was bought for $100.
Yeah.
So a guy takes him to the island, and immediately everybody's all hostile, and they're like, oh, an outsider. It's kind of like
because the guy drops him like at a different part where he just walks up the beach, even though the spot on the beach he walks up is right next to the dock that the plane. like ties off to. So it's like they knew that the plane brought him there.
And so he goes to like stay at the inn, I guess. And not everybody there is women, but the only people like doing anything of importance are women. And
the men pretty much are like manual labor.
Yeah, the men are kind of like grunts, and they do like manual labor, and they don't talk or anything.
Yep.
So, and the women are real weird.
I also noticed that was it all white people? Just like blonde hair, blue eyed.
Yeah,
well, not
blonde
hair. There's some
most
darker hair. Yeah, most of them are blonde, and there are a couple other hair colors, but I think they were all white. So they're pretty racist.
He goes to stay at the inn, and he's like setting up in his room, and another plot point being jammed down our throats is that he's allergic to bee stings, and this is an island where they harvest honey, and that's like their big claim to fame is that they have a really good crop or whatever you call it of honey harvest.
It's their honey harvest.
And so he pulls out his bag and he's unpacking it, and you see him pull out his little box of EpiPens, and
it says bee epi right on it.
We know what EpiPens are. We can assume that the viewer is intelligent enough to understand that he's got an allergy, and that's why he has EpiPens. But he pulls them out, and it says bee epi, and they're colored like bees. And he opens it up, and there's a close shot of it, like they're really spoon feeding it, like he's allergic to bees.
Well, he kills a bee. He kills a bee when he's in the inn. He slams a cup of mead down on it. And she's like, "What'd you do that for?" He goes, "Sorry, I'm allergic."
After he's checked in, he meets up with his ex-fiancée, and she says that the kid is missing. And he's decides, since he's a cop in California, that he's going to launch this island-wide investigation.
That he somehow has jurisdiction over this island and can launch an investigation. And like a cop's allowed to investigate wherever he wants, but he doesn't have the power to like make people do stuff wherever he wants.
Nic Cage does. Yeah. So he starts storming around the island and asking where this girl is, and everybody swears that they don't know who she is or where she is. It even starts
when he's first off the plane. The first people he runs into, he pulls the picture out and goes, "Do you know this little girl?" And they're like, "No, we don't know who she is." And they're kind of like weird.
Her name's Rowan.
Yeah, Rowan. And then they have this weird bag, and he obviously thinks that there's like a dead little kid in it.
And it's dripping blood.
Yeah. And he's like, "What's in the bag? A shark or something?" You're like,
"What's in the bag? A shark or something?"
And you're like, "Why a random just shark is somehow
What's
in this
there,
bag?"
A giraffe or something? Like, where do you get shark from?
And then she goes, "Well, open it if you want to see what's in there." And he opens it and like jumps back, but it never shows you.
They never show you what it is.
Bag.
Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah.
For all we know, there could have been a real dead body in there, and he's just like, "Oh, that's not the girl I'm looking for."
Yeah.
So he starts going around the island, and everybody's being really dodgy, and nobody's really fessing up, but he gets the sense that they're hiding something from him. They do really know where the girl is. So he busts into the schoolhouse.
Yeah, he busts in the schoolhouse.
Which is all women. Well, I mean, a woman teacher and then all little girls that are all blonde with pigtails.
Yeah.
And he just bursts in mid-lecture.
Well, yeah, he's just standing there kind of watching, and the teacher goes, "So in their essence, what are men or males?"
Phallic symbol, phallic symbol.
And he's like, "What?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, it's great what you're teaching these kids." And so he starts like interrogating the class. He just completely takes over the class. He whips out his badge and starts waving it around. And
he goes, "I'm a policeman."
Yeah, "I'm a policeman. See my badge." Yeah. And he's like waving it
with
around.
With this creepy smile on his face.
And then he goes up to the chalkboard and she's got like the lesson written up, and he just starts erasing everything, and everyone's just kind of staring at him.
Rowan's name across the
like,
the
who knows this
board.
girl? Pass around the photo. And he's just like, everybody's just like, even if they really did know where this girl was, he's being a fucking prick to everybody.
Yep.
And the teacher gets all uppity, and he pulls out like the attendance record.
Well, yeah, because he passes it around, and then he sees an empty desk, and he's like, "Whose desk is that?" And he walks over and opens it, and there's a
crow flies out.
And so he's like, thinks that just because there's an empty desk that had to be Rowan's desk. So he grabs the attendance book, even though the teacher tries to stop him. He like pushes her away forcefully and is just snapping stuff up.
So he finds her name in the attendance register and realizes that they're lying.
And somehow
there.
like they just like cross it out, and they think that, oh yeah, that'll hide the name being there.
And the teacher says that she burned alive in an accident, and she's buried in the cemetery. And
well, first she says she will burn alive. And you're like, oh, that's foreshadowing, because he goes, what'd you say? And she's like, she burned alive. So that's foreshadowing that she's not really dead, but she's going to be dead.
Up to this point, Nic Cage thinks that the girl is not his.
Yeah, it's his
that
ex's.
it happened to be his ex's daughter, and he's such a good guy that he wants to go save her.
Yeah.
So he has like a little sit down with her, and she reveals that he really is Rowan's father.
Yep.
Which they act like it's a big plot twist, but it's kind of like no shit.
Yeah, because it's this really long, contrived, drawn out cemetery sequence where they're talking about stuff like he finds the grave that she supposedly buried in because she burned to death after the school teacher tells him that. And then his ex just shows up. Her name's Willow. Willow just shows up randomly, and they like talk for a good while. It seems that they're just sitting there talking, and then she slips up and says, "Our daughter," and he's like, "What?"
Yeah, and so then he like buries his face in his hands, and he's having like a real moment of realization, and then he turns, and the first thing he says is, "That's not right."
Yeah, and just walks away.
And walks away.
Yeah, he's just like, "That's not right."
Like, okay, and then after that scene, he seems to pretty much have accepted that
Yeah,
it's his
that
daughter.
it's his
He's
daughter.
just like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
he's like, "Oh, I have a daughter." Yeah.
So he sees the dude with a seaplane landing back at the island,
Yes.
and decides to go meet up with him to use the radio in the plane to like get backup or whatever.
Yeah. Which, when he was dropped off by the seaplane, the people on the island weren't very happy with the pilot, so they kind of hinted that they were going to have to deal with him.
So he goes down there and he sits on the dock next to it, and it's kind of like parked out in the water, like he can't just climb into it. It's a little ways away.
So he just sits out on the
sits
dock.
there on the dock, and
He
then
goes,
there's
"Hello," and he like yells twice, and then he just sits down on the dock.
and then there's like a time lapse implying that he either falls asleep or like he's there.
Well,
for
it looks
a
like
long
he just
time.
kind of sits there, and then all of a sudden, he sees a dead girl under the dock.
he sees his dead daughter basically under the dock, and he takes off his clothes. Well, not all his clothes.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah,
He takes off
thankfully.
like his jacket and his pants and stuff, and then dives down
like a comical,
really,
like weird,
really awkward, like a sideways
Yeah,
dive.
like he was jumping. I don't
Like
even,
either climb into the water or dive forward, but he like dives sideways like he's a seal or something.
like nobody, like he had never learned how
Yeah.
to dive. He just kind of threw himself off the dock.
It's like the director was like, "All right, Nick, so just dive off the edge of the water." He's like, "I got this, baby girl," and he just like jumps sideways.
It was
off.
like a weird half cartwheel dive. Like his arms were all spread and his legs were spread.
So he goes
out.
underwater and he finds a dead body, and then as he's like grabbing it, he wakes up.
Yeah,
and
he snaps
and
awake.
he realizes he was asleep on the dock. Then he looks down in his arms,
And
and,
he's
the
holding
dead
the
body's
dead
in his
girl.
arms. And then he wakes up again.
snaps awake.
It's like the classic dream in a dream in a dream bullshit. And so then he goes over to the plane, and the electronics are all destroyed, and he can't find the pilot and everything.
And then, so after that, he decides he's going to head back up onto the island because the pilot's nowhere to be found. So
He's going to go to the doctor.
Yeah,
'cause
he's
the
gonna
doctor
take
takes the
photos.
photos of the people, and he wants to find the photo of her because it's missing.
So he goes up and he goes into the doctor's house, or he knocks on the door, and she answers and everything. And he's talking to her, and she's obviously like the rest of the island, where they don't like him, and he's a dick to them, and they don't give him any information. They kind of just try and hide everything.
The whole time, everybody's being really shisty and secretive, and he doesn't trust anybody because no one's being upfront with him, and they're either only telling partial truth or just lying outright, and he's aware of this.
And they're all really sarcastic.
And the
like,
doctor's like, "Oh, well, I've got the negatives of her photo. I'll make a print for you." And he's like,
okay, I'll accept
Just turns
that.
around and walks out, and you're like, "What the fuck, Nic Cage?" So he goes out and hides in the bushes.
Yeah, like a creeper.
And then these two people that look like Star Wars Jawas come up. They've
have,
got these
like, the
weird
hoods.
beekeepers. It's like a beekeeper's net mixed in with a hood, so it just looks like there's like blackness under the
Yeah,
hood.
like somebody took a hoodie sweatshirt and
Put like a mesh over the front.
over the front, so it looks like a homemade beekeeper's outfit.
So they show up at the doctor's house and leave with the doctor, and he immediately breaks into the house.
Well, like he jimmies the lock open, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like I did he use his credit card, or was
I don't
it,
even
he was just kind
remember.
of like shakes it open. But he goes into her house and he starts going through all her crap.
And he finds the photo of the
Of
girl.
course, he finds a photo of the girl, and it says, and then there's like a note that says,
Worst harvest
and
ever.
he's like, what? And he doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, the way he reads it, it was a weird yearbook entry or something. It's
Yeah.
like this year was Rowan worst harvest ever.
in history. And so he takes that picture to Willow and is like, what's this about the worst harvest ever? And he's all pissed off at her, like freaking out.
We need to back up to talk about him helping with the logs.
Oh, yeah.
He's riding his bike. The whole time he's riding a bike around this island, and it's really comical because he's wearing like a suit. And I mean, it's Nic Cage, and his hair's all crazy. And he's riding this like beach cruiser bicycle around the island. So the whole movie, Nic Cage only cares about himself and then finding this little girl. He's an asshole to everybody. He's really matter of fact and just sarcastic with everyone. And he's riding his bike and he sees these guys loading logs into a cart. And he like drops the bike and runs
and just
over.
Decides
he's like,
help.
I need to help you with these logs. Do you need some help?
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, the whole movie...
Yeah. And the guy was fine before he got there.
There's like three guys.
He's picking him up and loading him on this cart.
And he's like, oh, here, let me help you. And so he starts helping him load the logs in, and immediately, the first log that he helps him put in, the whole cart, like, collapses.
Yeah. And so he grabs the guy, like,
so he yanks the guy out of the way and, like, saves him. And does he, like, ask him something?
I can't remember what he says.
And the guy's like...
Like he has his tongue cut out. I think all the men have their tongues cut out.
They never explicitly say that, but it's pretty obvious. And so then he goes and meets up with
Willow.
Yeah. So he ultimately decides that he has to go see Miss Summersisle.
Summersisle, yeah.
Who is like the queen bee.
Which the island is called Summersisle. It's named Summersisle.
The kind of premise seems to be that everybody, it's set up like a bee colony, and there's the queen bee, and there are all the worker bees and stuff, and the males are like the weak, powerless ones.
It is.
And so her house is like the queen bee's nest or chamber or whatever you want to call it. It's this huge, like, I don't know what you call that kind of house. It's like a compound almost.
Yeah.
So he's on his way to see her, and he goes into he sees the fields where they have all the bee hives.
Yeah, like he sees them over there working in the bee.
Knowing fully well he's allergic to bees, and one of them like buzzes in his face. So instead of going the other way, he goes through the field of beehives.
He like freaks out and starts running, which of course, if you're allergic, you're going to freak out. But yeah, why did he go there in the first place? He could have
turned around and just gone the other fucking direction. And then he's knocking beehives over and they're buzzing around.
Falling down hills.
He gets out his EpiPen, or his bee epi.
His bee epi.
And is like trying to shoot it into his neck, and he like blacks out. And then he wakes up at Miss Summersisle's.
Yeah.
Summersisle
house. Whatever it is, yeah.
Or Sister Summersisle.
Yeah, Sister Summersisle.
And wakes up and the doctor's like, I used all natural remedies to cure you, and they never touch on that again. It's just like, well, what the fuck did she use?
Yeah, it's just like he goes, did you use my epi or something? Like, she goes, oh no, we just used old ways.
Did she just stick honey in his mouth? Or I don't. So then he meets Miss Summersisle, who's technically like she's the allegory or whatever for the queen bee.
Yeah.
And
she's older.
She's
than
this old
all the
lady,
rest,
and she's really weird. And everybody like she's got like servants and stuff, and she walks him through like her fields, talking to him, more exposition dump of why they're there and how they came to be, and she's just like telling him everything except about the little girl. And this whole scene, there's bees everywhere, and he's not at all concerned about the bees.
Well, he keeps acting weird, like he hikes up the collar of his jacket.
So then he gets these weird tics, and he's like keeps squinting and like winking one eye and slapping his own face.
It's like he's a junkie or something.
And then he like you said, he pulls his collar up like over his neck and over his face, like he's a junkie.
Half of his face, like
And she just keeps talking to him the whole time, and then all the while there's CGI bees in the foreground and in the background, and there's just like buzzing constantly, and you can't fucking pay attention to the exposition at all, because all you can look at is him making these weird little ticks and slapping himself, and then all this bzzz, and like shit flying in the foreground, and so it's like a 5-minute discussion, and I don't even remember what they talk about.
He asks her if he can exhume the grave of the little girl so he can take her to a coroner and find out how she died, and
he ultimately decides to go and dig up the girl's grave.
Yes.
Digs it up, finds a coffin, pries it open with his superhuman strength.
He somehow just rips the nails out of the wood.
And this is, I guess, minute, but it really bugged me, is he's digging and he just hits the top of the coffin like he just discovered it.
Yeah.
But there's so much dirt uncovered from it that he's able to just open it right up. Like, dude, how did you get to that point?
He kind of just...
He just brushed it off, and then it was ready to go. Yeah. Like, all that time digging till then, you didn't realize there's a fucking coffin under your feet.
There,
So he opens it up, and there's this little burnt straw doll inside of the coffin.
The face is all burnt off.
Yeah. And then
So that was supposed to be Rowan's grave, but it turns out there's just a doll in there. And then he hears, like, Rowan crying.
Which he hears the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
He sees her and hears her crying.
Running all over the place. So he thinks she's in this crypt that they were sitting by before in the cemetery. And so he, like, somehow it's unlocked this time. Just randomly unlocked.
The whole movie, they make a point about how it's always locked and it's secretive, and it's just, the padlock just isn't latched.
Well,
so he climbs in.
Willow tells him, oh, it's a flooded crypt from back in the day. And he's like, well, the lock's on it new. Like, somebody goes in there a lot. So it's unlocked, and he opens the door, or the lid, whatever it is.
And then he goes down into the little chamber, and he finds the red sweater, like, floating in the pool, so he decides to climb into this thing.
Like, he opens, like, not like a trap door. It's like
kind of like a trap door.
Yeah, kind of like a weird trap door, and there's this other, like, cavernous opening underneath that's flooded, so he just dives right in.
And then, of course, somebody puts, like, a heavy log over the top.
Yeah, they close the trap door and put a log over it so he can't open it.
Now, keep in mind, this was at nighttime, and then he has another flashback, like as if he was asleep.
The truck running the girl over.
The truck running the girl over again for about the 12th time.
Yeah.
And then the ex-fiancée comes and saves him, and it's daytime.
So it's like he's been there all night. Somehow
just
holding
like treading
himself,
water.
Yeah, he was like, he had his arm through the wrought iron grate, and, like, holding himself up all night as he's having flashbacks.
Yeah. So she saves him, and whoever locked him in there didn't take his gun, didn't take his coat, didn't take the burnt doll, so he just picks all of it up, and they go out into the cemetery.
And the sweater, it's all still there, like the girl's sweater. So, yeah, he's like, this was here, she was here, and then he picks up the doll. He's like, how'd it get burned?
Yeah, this is the best line in the, one of the best lines in the movie. As it gets closer to the ending, the lines get better, and the action gets more ridiculous, because up to this point, it's been fucking awful. And he's like, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? I don't know!
And he just, like, keeps saying it again and again. And he's, like, waving in her face. It's like, dude, like, don't be a fucking prick to her. Like, she's trying to help you. Although she does kind of lead him on the whole time, and she only tells him just enough information to get to the next point, and he never questions, like...
And she doesn't warn him. Like, she kind of says that everyone there's different, and it was different to grow up there, but they're good people. Even though they're not really good people, they're kind of dicks. But he's a dick, too.
He wants to take the thing back to Miss Summers' aisle, because he goes back to the house.
Does he go back? Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah. He wants to go ask her
And then
questions.
there's, like, this really weird... it's almost like... you haven't seen any of his films, I don't think, but it's like Alejandro Jodorowsky sequence, because... It's like
where he's opening all the doors.
Yeah, he keeps...
Well, first he bike jacks Sister Rose, which is the school teacher.
Yeah.
Steals her bike, and she's wearing this, like, weird mask and keeps talking about...
Like a plague mask.
Yeah, keeps talking about, like, the harvest or something.
That happens after he goes back to the house.
I thought he jacked...
No, because so the island's, like, abandoned. Everybody's vanished. He goes to the house, and he starts opening doors, and they're, like, these weird little... vignettes, like Alejandro Jodorowsky. Like, he opens one door and there's a naked man laying in bed.
Yeah, with
he's like missing an eye. He's got these like boils all over his body.
And he
just turns and looks at him, and he closes the door and he's like gagging, like he's gonna vomit. And then he runs up the stairs and opens another door, and there's like a woman that's like naked, covered in bees, and she's got like a bee beard.
Yeah, and she's just smiling like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, and then he goes and just leaves.
Yeah,
he doesn't go anywhere else. He just leaves.
Kind of just stumbles
He's just like,
through the house,
that's good
and
enough.
Runs out,
and then it cuts to the queen lady, and she's sitting in her like palace room with like this weird sheet thing, and there's all these people surrounding her. And it's like, obviously, that probably would have been very clear where to go to get to that room. He just gave up and left. So then he goes to take the bike.
Does he steal the bike from her first, or does he go?
No,
he
does
beach?
He takes the bike and then goes.
Oh, and then goes to the beach.
So yeah, he takes the bike from Mrs. Rose,
or Sister Rose,
who's played by the lady on Deadwood that was addicted to laudanum. I can't remember what her name is. The miner's wife guy.
Yeah.
And
that's right. Yeah.
And so he takes her bike. And he's points his gun at her. He's like in hot mode. He's like, step away from the bike.
Yeah, like like he's in hot pursuit or something.
And so he takes the bike from her, and starts going on this rampage around the island because all the kids are like playing around the island with these masks on, and he just goes around the island and starts ripping masks off.
And he says, "I'm going to search every inch of this island.
Take those masks off." And he starts just like taking masks off these little kids, and they're like, and he's just getting all like worked up, and it's like, what the fuck, dude?
I like how he thinks that because he's a cop, these people have to respect his authority, and just because they're on an island, even though they're on this island, it's a private island, the rules still apply. Yet he's allowed to go do all this stuff that he wants, and to him the rules don't apply.
So then, is that the point where he finds the dead pilot?
I think he goes down to the beach.
He goes back to the beach again, and he finds the pilot of the seaplane, and he's dead. And he's like, his hand is like
his
removed.
hand's gone, and his mouth's sewed shut, and his eyes are gone.
It's kind of weird because up until now they've hidden everything really well on this island, and this dude's body is just kind of
like
hanging out
among driftwood, just laying there.
And meanwhile, all the people with the animal masks are like watching him.
Yeah.
So he goes back into the inn, and the lady that runs it there, and he just punches her in the face.
Yeah, she says something to him, and he just kind of walks up, or she says like, "You look a little worse for wear" or something. And he just cold clocks.
Just saying anything, just boom, punches her and
steals her bear
goes
costume.
On. Yeah, she has a bear costume, and then Lily Sobieski like attacks him, and he like Super Saiyan kicks her into the wall.
Just annihilates
he kicks her, and she flies across the room.
It's
and
like
hits
Kill
the wall.
Bill almost, like a Kill Bill move.
So then we go into the last sequence of the movie, I guess. It's not really a denouement, but it's just, I guess, the conclusion or the climax.
Yeah.
So he puts on the bear costume and blends in with this little, like,
procession. I was
going to say caravan. Procession is a better word.
Procession.
Of people that are going for this ceremony that they've been alluding to the entire movie, the Wicker Man ceremony. And he finds
most of them have their masks like tied on, but there's a few that have masks on sticks.
They have masks on sticks. It's like the poor man's version.
Conveniently, Willow's one that only has a mask on a stick, so he can see her face.
So he waltzes up in this bear costume, and he's like peeking out of the mouth of the bear costume, and he's like, "Oh, it's me!" And she's like looking at him like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And
he's like, "I thought I told you to stay in your house." And she's like, "Well, I had to be here. Everyone would be suspicious."
So he sees a little girl tied up at the thing, and they're like announcing like the sacrifice of this girl, and
turns out it's Rowan.
It's Rowan, and he's not like slick about it or anything. He's in a fucking bear costume, and he just like waddles his way up to the altar and starts untying her.
And this lady's standing there, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he just punches her right in the face.
Starts punching people, and he like frees her, and they start running into the woods, and everybody's chasing him, and he keeps he's like, "Oh, Rowan, stay with me." And he's like, "Oh, Rowan, stop running so fast." And he's like out of breath. He's a fucking cop.
I know.
And he can't chase a little girl for like 10 feet.
She's not even running fast. She's just kind of waddling around.
So she outruns him.
Because how old is she? Like 7, 8, maybe?
Maybe.
So she's just like barely running. He's like, "Oh, I can't keep up."
And so she leads him right back to the people again, and he gets surrounded by them, and there's like this big dialogue about how he was the real sacrifice all along.
Yeah, because she leads him back, and then they all surround him.
And the whole thing with Rowan and the ex-fiancée, they were just bait to lure him back to the island so they could sacrifice him.
The ex-fiancée was bait even before, like when she left the island.
The very
to
beginning,
meet him.
when she wrote. Yeah, when she met him and they got engaged, it was part of this whole plan to lure him to the island.
This whole elaborate plot to lure him in.
Couldn't she have just dated him and said,
"Hey, come meet my family.
Let's go meet my family on the island," and then taken him there and fucking killed him? Like, this is a lot, like years of effort to make this happen.
Yep.
Absurd. It's completely absurd.
Yeah.
And so...
And it turns out that a female cop he worked with is one of these weird island people. And the girl and the mother from the car that was hit by the truck are part of this
basically
island.
Every woman he's ever met ends up being part of this thing.
So they all somehow were part of this elaborate plot to get him to the island.
So they surround him and they prop his legs up on these little logs and they like with his sledgehammer, almost Misery style,
just
break his legs.
And he's like yelling and cussing.
And then they put this like mesh mask on him and pour bees into it like they're water or something. They just pour them in like it's fluid. And he's like, bees!
They're in my eyes!
And he goes, "You bitches!"
Yeah, and he's like spitting and stuff. But he's yelling about how they're in his eyes and they start like stinging him and he passes out eventually because he's allergic. And then I see that the doctor uses his EpiPen to save
they use
his life.
EpiPen to save him again, to draw out the torture. Yeah. But the best part about the bees getting poured in the mask is that he's yell announcing everything they're doing. Oh, you're putting bees in the mask. Oh, they're trapped in the mask. Oh, they're stinging my face. It's like he's announcing everything that's happening. It's like, yeah, we can see that, Nick. Like, we got it.
Well, what is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Oh, my eyes! Eyes! Ah!
So then the final scene, they have the giant, 50-foot Wicker Man, which was in a place that he's been before.
I know. So
and they somehow assembled this thing in 10 minutes.
That's what some of those logs were for. Yeah. That he helped load onto the cart.
And so they lynch him, kind of
they
hoist
hang him from his feet
up into the head of this Wicker Man, and up in the arms and torso of the Wicker Man are chickens and stuff that are also being sacrificed. I guess they're getting as much bang for their buck as they can, sacrificing 30 things at once.
So they hoist him up through the center of the Wicker Man into the head, and then there's this crazy trap door that closes, and he's trapped in the head of this Wicker Man.
And so then Rowan has got the torch that's going to light the thing. And it's oh no, baby, don't light it. Yeah. And so she throws the torch.
Rowan, don't light it.
And then the whole thing goes up.
Yeah,
and
so she just drops it right on the head and lights it on fire.
He's super dramatic. He's oh.
He's yelling. He's like, oh my God.
And then that's it.
Yeah,
it
just dies.
Because the credits roll after that.
He burns to death, and then the Wicker Man falls over, and it goes to
credits. And that's it. They didn't even allude to it happening to the next guy or what happens afterwards. That was just it.
It's just he was just supposed to die for their harvest.
And it's super weird because it follows it follows it should be the tragic hero plot structure, but I don't. For some reason, it didn't click that way for me. It's it didn't seem like he was supposed to be a tragic hero, and then they just killed him in the end.
Yeah, no, he's just a dick who was walking around trying to figure it out.
On a side note, the people on this island are full blown Renaissance fair.
Yeah,
the inn looks like a Renaissance fair thing.
Yep.
The people are wearing these weird, super cheesy costumes.
It looks like if you were in a little Irish village, that was old school. Mud buildings almost, or with the Tudor style where it's the exposed rafters and the thatched roofs and stuff like that.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
And then there's ruins near the cemetery that look really constructed, it's like a stage.
And there's a giant Jesus statue under the water in that crypt. It was just weird.
I guess now it's time to give it a rating. What would you give it out of 10?
Oh man. Well, considering if I had been in the theater watching this, I'd have gotten up and walked out.
Oh, I absolutely would ask for my money back.
And just sitting there watching it as we were, I was almost falling asleep. I'd have to say 1.5, maybe 2.
The thing is, the last sequence, as bad as it is kind of comical.
That's
and
the only funny part.
It was interesting, but that's the last 15 minutes. Everything building up to that was just insufferable and just awful, and I could not stand it. So it's if it had fallen into so bad it's good territory, I probably would actually have given it a pretty decent rating just because it would have at least been engaging. But I could not stand this movie. If it was just the last 15 minutes and nothing else, I probably would have liked it. Or if it was
that through the whole time.
Yeah, or just because it just was too long for not enough of a payoff. I would give it 1 out of 10. I don't think I've given anything that low of a rating. Yeah, I think I even gave Troll 2 a higher rating than that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because that was actually, even though it was
funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
And this did not even have that going for it. So Wicker Man with Nic Cage. There it is.